and now I can breathe a little better. We'll just start training her up, and it will help great. Okay, thanks Chris, thanks. Chris Dumb didn't just take off. He stabbed him in the back and then shook hands with Rick Ness. The man that everyone trusted turned against them after years of service, grease and grind. He then started a gold war that no one saw coming. Pay attention, because what Chris does next could ruin everything Parker worked on when trust isn't enough. He had always been the one who kept things calm. Someone who never caused trouble, could be counted on, and could fix a broken engine with just a wrench, a piece of wire, and some gum. Everyone knew that he was honest. That group had been through thick mud and snow-packed breakdowns together. There were no plans for anything to change, but things do adapt. But that night he was never seen again. What we found buried under his bed changed everything. It didn't start with yelling or banging doors. It was more like a slow building, a soft whisper that got stronger over time. The days went by slowly. It got colder at night. Even though he kept working, there was a change behind his eyes. A lot of people started to notice. Maybe he had a bigger picture in mind. He might have been stuck. It's tough to work for gold when your sweat doesn't seem to matter, but it's even tougher on the soul. I don't think that coffee and smokes will help right now, and everything will get backed up if I make a bottleneck. The group had a beat. The crew worked together well, like a well-oiled machine. But things break down all the time. He had always been the one who fixed things and found solutions. People who made things easier don't always get the thanks. It feels like running in place after a while. One more thing said was that Rick Ness was battling his own problems. His team wasn't perfect. They had hit some bumps, stumbled and even crashed. Even so, he kept working hard and building. It wasn't just work that he was looking for. His goal was to put together a real team. So he moved quickly when he heard there might be a shift. There wasn't any show or big deal, just a quiet chat and a promise of something different. A place where ideas mattered and people could lead as well as work. Rick saw something that other people had missed. The word got around quickly and hard. People were shocked. Not just shocked, but shocked. The kind of news that stops people in the middle of their coffee. Some people didn't believe it. Some people felt it right away. Because this wasn't just a guy moving sides. This was the man who worked for them. The steady being there. Aside from that, not much was said out loud with the first crew. But people close to him could feel it. The boss kept his eyes on the ground, the numbers, and the dig. It felt like giving up a piece of the first base. He was the only one who knew some things. Know-how is written on every bolt and beam. Being on edge while you wait to see if you'll make it back is incredibly stressful. Also, did we? It looks like a close call. Things were different at Rick's. Some people were wary. A lot of them were happy. It wasn't just about the skills, it was about the mood and energy. He didn't attack right away. He worked hard and won his spot again. There is no drama or baggage, just results. Less stuff broke down. Timetables got tighter. There wasn't a rush of gold, but things were moving. The move made waves in the world of mining. The old lines became less clear. There were changes in how loyalty looked. Few thought it was honest. Some saw it as a man proving his worth. Not one person told him what to do. He did the job, fixed what was wrong, and made things better. He did make a difference, even for those who didn't believe in him. After some time, the effect was still there. He became the calm boss who kept things from getting out of hand, knew when to push, when to back off, and when to keep the wheels straight. And changes were made to the old team. People did their part. Roles changed. But there was still a hint of what was. We need to remember that even the best teams need room to grow, or they could lose what makes them strong. He left. Things were different after that, though. The person who turned down gold. He found his place, his reason for being, and the next part of his life. It was a big proof that he did that. That keeping loyal isn't always the bravest thing to do. It means having the guts to walk away. It wasn't just one man moving crews. It was about what might happen if people stopped settling down. It had to do with the danger of going, and the chance to start over. It was about having faith that your best days are yet to come. For everyone who watched, It was a lesson in being brave, making a choice even when the road isn't clear. He did not wait for my okay. He took action. People couldn't turn away, even if they booed or groaned. Because when someone like him comes out of nowhere and takes charge, you know something is changing. The change didn't happen slowly. It was stomped in. With their dusty boots on, they shake things up a lot. He's in the mud and dreams with Parker 1 minute and with Ness the next, as if they'd always been a team. It wasn't just a move. People were shocked by how much things changed. Some people talked, and some people watched. He had been Parker's friend for what seemed like a very long time. It had been a rough season with broken gear, and so much pressure that steel would have cracked. People thought they were close together, like rocks in the same wall. But it's not always happiness behind the scenes. Stress was always there, but hard to see because of the dirt and grease. Being someone else's shade can be hard, and it can make you wonder what it's like to be the one shining. Ness was going up a different kind of rock. Wild, steep, and dangerous. He was determined to reach his big goals, even though things were hard at times. His needs were met by someone who knew how to grind, and wasn't afraid to shake things up. The new guy was more than just a good match. He started it, and he didn't sneak in. He walked right in. Yes. You really did a great job. I'll be expecting a few ounces of gold rent. If it helps you though, don't turn it down. Just get back on your feet, man. It wasn't an easy exit. It wasn't like leaving a store when I left Parker. Taking a page out of a book was more like it. It's loud, dirty, and hard to block out. It wasn't just quitting a job. It meant leaving behind a story with roots. It was felt. Some people got hurt. Some people were angry. Everyone was shocked. When Parker saw it, the shift hit hard. The change in the air felt like the buzzing that happens before a storm. There was a quiet hum, but work kept going on. It's hard to lose someone who was important. It takes time to build trust, and it's easy to lose it. But on Rick's side, that camp was lit up. The new person came in and changed the rhythm. The crew moved faster and better. It seemed like the noise had been turned up. All of a sudden, this wasn't just another gold-digging team. This unit had something to show. He was more than just a guy with a shovel. He was the word. Rick really meant it. Things were going to change soon. The fans were crazy. A lot of online threads start up. Some people clapped for him. They said it was smart and brave. Some people took it very seriously, seeing it as a crack in something they thought was strong. People threw that word around like dirt. But this move wasn't easy. It wasn't just about gold or money. It had to do with freedom. A chance to try something new. There might be more. More people looked at every gold count, split and move. Was Chris going to win? Could Rick keep up? Was Parker hurt or just getting used to things? Everyone had an opinion, but no one really knew the truth. The grind never stopped out in the dirt. Moving parts screamed, trucks groaned, and dirt flew. But something wasn't right. The old team worked harder and talked less, as if they had something important to prove. Not just to other people, but also to each other. That they were still real, strong, and solid. Rick's camp kept getting bigger. Chris brought more than skill. He brought a beat and a drive. The wins picked up. The group worked well together. I'm not sure what's going on. I'm not available at this time. There's no answer on his phone. He is not responding to texts. Did something bad happen to the guy? Is he just late? Is he done? Is he not going to come back? Fans leaned in close and watched every move. It was never just about jobs that we were moving. It had to do with names, pride, and making marks in the dirt. It was a big deal when Chris made his move. People said he was trying to get attention. Some people said he did something wrong. He changed the game either way. That kind of loss hurts. It hurt, even if it wasn't meant to. You lose more than one team member. You lose some of the ease, flow, and story you were making. Have you ever thought about what goes on behind those loud engines and sparkling gold pans? Hold on tight, because things are about to get bad. Mining is a dangerous job, and friendships don't always shine like the gold thereafter. Let's look at Chris Doumit. He was liked by many because he was reliable, chill, and always real. But even good guys get tired of being second fiddle every once in a while. That's when things get heated, or in this case they break up. Chris and Parker had a past together. They were so close that you could dig through the mud with them. The pressure set in when the goals stopped adding up like they used to. This caused everything to change. Chris began to see the bigger picture. He was no longer just the guy who fixed dozers and moved dirt. He wanted to be a part of the big moves and decisions that got a lot of attention. And Parker, well, let's just say he wasn't giving up the throne. Things were not the same anymore. But what came next went even further. The effects of shaking hands. Now comes Ness. Right now Rick has been working hard to make a name for himself and show that he can lead a group of people and not just do what he's told. It was important for Rick to find someone with knowledge and a lot of fans like Chris. And Chris needed a second chance, a new start, and maybe even some payback. After just one handshake, Chris left the ship. It wasn't just about making new claims or finding new partners. This story was about lying, being proud, and doing everything you can to reach your golden dream. When Chris and Rick worked together, that hit like a ton of rock. The fans lost it. Parker likely felt that stab very deeply. But digging isn't about how you feel. It has to do with gold. Chris also made it clear that he wasn't going to hide. It wasn't always easy working with Rick though. There are new rules and a new vibe at the camp. Chris had to show that he wasn't just a helper. And Rick had to show that he could be in charge without dropping the ball. But they found a beat when they played together. This is the kind of tough teamwork that gets things done. Chris brought his skills. Rick brought the wild life and the money. It began to show up. The word got around quickly. Few people laughed, but everyone watched because this kind of change doesn't happen every season. Alliances were put to the test, and the lines were drawn. Chris stayed strong, showing that he wasn't just going along for the ride. He was making something personal. Also, look at how digging changes people. Long days, short tempers, dreams buried under mud and ice. Chris might not have meant to leave Parker in the first place. He might have just seen an open door and chosen to go through it. One thing is for sure though, you can't go back once you switch teams. Every dig, every gold way, every win and every loss after that had more than just tools and minerals on it. It made people think. It carried whispers in mining groups, eyes watching from behind TV screens, and fan shapes. From that point on, Chris's every move was no longer a single one. It was an open bet, a strategic move that everyone could see and judge in real time. People watched, often holding their breath, to see if the choice he made would hold up over the next few seasons. They watched Rick and wondered how he could lead without a trusted right hand. Changed the water and feed rate. It was a lot of fun, but it was also hard because you're in wide open water and stuff. They look at Parker and wonder if the events that are happening will put out his fire or make it stronger. Gold fever affects everyone the same. It eats up both careful and brave people, leaving no one safe. As the work went on through rough terrain and cold nights, Chris's choice was more than just a turn in the road. It was a change in the plates. Not just a sideways career move or a normal change in the industry, but a new meaning of loyalty and ambition for those who work in mining, and for the millions of fans who live vicariously through them. This wasn't a small part of a long past. It was a story that wouldn't go away. As it turns out, this business is really about showing how people feel, even when things look dirty and rough. As you dig through the mud, you'll find power struggles, dreams too big to keep quiet, and pride strong enough to cut steel. Chris's exit changed more than just the roster. It made his old team feel like their minds were shaking. Implications came right away and lasted for a long time. Every encounter, remark and sideways glance was broken down to find out what it all meant. Trust, which used to be easy to come by, is now hard to find. What people used to be able to talk about openly and honestly is now hidden behind careful words in smaller groups. Even the scenery seemed different.
somehow colder, even though the engines were hot and everyone was tired of being with each other. Chris was no longer there, but his presence could still be felt in every hallway of the business. Rick went through the most of this change. People expected him to rise, change and last, as the one who was left behind. He had to change how he led because of all the doubt and rumors. Could he handle the extra weight without his old friend? We tried out those 2 plants today, which was a good idea, but we need to commit to something. Time is running out. Did he have the technical knowledge, mental intelligence, or raw strength to keep going even when things seemed a little off? The answer couldn't come from a single successful haul, or the sum at the end of the season. It had to come from little things. How he handled disagreements, how he dealt with losses, and how he kept people going when they were down. These were the standards that would be used to judge him now. Still, Rick didn't give up. He faced the trouble with the same steady strength that made him a trusted figure among his peers. His team got used to it, but there were some bumps along the way. They knew that being a boss isn't about being perfect. It's about not giving up. It went wrong sometimes, and some goals were missed. But every loss was a choice to keep going. And every day that choice was worth more than 100 ounces of gold. Since digging is more than just a job, it's who you are. A cruel game where life means changing before the ground swallows you up. At the same time, Parker watched from afar. In theory, a competitor, but in fact, a silent judge. Chris's choice had an effect on his life as well. Changes like these cause recalculations everywhere, even if they don't have anything to do with mining. When talented people leave and loyalties change, it affects supply lines, trust networks, and in the end, profit margins. Parker was known for being intense and driven all the time. He didn't talk much about the change, but people who paid close attention could see it in the way he acted. He was in charge more tightly, checked things out more thoroughly, and his tone was more stern than it had been before. He didn't say anything in response, he did something. There has always been more to mining than just digging up dirt. It is a psychological experiment, a battle of egos, and a place where stress shows who you are. It takes away the mask and shows who gives up and who fights. When cameras record every look, every scream, and every awkward pause, the mind turns into a furnace. Not just rocks and dust, but also people and what they're really made of. Chris left one group to join another, and more than just his future was at risk. It became difficult for everyone who stayed. Over the next few weeks, the machinery kept roaring and diesel fumes mixed with the strong smell of desire. Lots of new systems were put in place. Some changes were made. They worked sometimes. They didn't always do that. But through it all, the unwavering, never-ending search for gold went on. It was a very rich creek, called Gold Run. I think the place where it went into Dominion was right here in this area. Chris had to do things in his new job that he had never had to do before. Having a different beat, meeting new people, and going to new places. Take it. A lot of people thought he could do it, but opinion doesn't mean much without action. In digging, the results are really weighed. Each gold weigh-in was a vote on his judgment, his loyalty, and whether breaking with the past was a good idea or a bad one. The numbers were correct, but they didn't give the whole story. There were many stories behind every ounce that was recorded. Near disasters, last-minute repairs, strained conversations, and small wins invisible to most. It was no longer enough to show that the choice was the right one to be successful. It was about making something that could stand on its own, without old ties or fan expectations getting in the way. Away from the operation, fans broke down every show and tense moment. Their wide-ranging and uncensored comments ran underneath the story like a second current. Some people quickly called Chris a genius. Some people saw deception. But whether they were cheering or booing, they were still fascinated. There was a reflection of something deeply human in this change. The need to get better and grow, even if it means giving up comfort. That's what stuck out. That's the reason why people watched. Moving around had effects on more than one plot. They spread outward. They tried Rick's ability to lead and handle his feelings. They questioned Parker's power and ability to see the future. They gave Chris the chance to change what his reputation would be. Most importantly, they told all the kids and everyone who watched that the ground is always moving in this world. Being loyal can be a strength or a weakness. Ambition can either push you forward or push you away. And gold, no matter how shiny it is still hard to get. People who chase it sometimes end up in deeper, darker places than they thought possible. So, was Chris after gold or running away from something more important? What do you think? Tell us below. Also, don't forget to join the Dig for Truth and like the video.